Paula P. Works here, back like we never left with One Piece, chapter 1090, Admiral Kizaru. Now, this one's kind of weird because One Piece came out this week, like it leaked, but it's not supposed to until next week. So technically, I think it's like either 2 or 1.5 weeks of break we got after this chapter. So anyway, let's enjoy it while we have it. The first thing I want to address here is that Captain Kuro is on the cover request. Captain Kuro's never in anything. He's one of those weird guys from the East Blue that you just don't see anymore and is not mentioned. The other guy is Don Krieg, just nowhere. Absent completely. I kind of want Kuro to come back at some point because he's holding a book here. Looks like it reads Heritage. I don't know what that entails, but yeah, he's interesting because he was the first character to display Soru. He called it something else because he couldn't see as he was moving, but it was like a weird rudimentary version of Soru. So he's kind of important to the lore because he is our introduction to that. It's also really weird, and I want to do a short about this, but it's also really weird how much trickle down there is when it comes to the Rokoshiki techniques, the 6 powers. It's weird because so many pirates know moonwalk and like shave. It's super weird. But also, getting into the meat of the chapter, your boy was right about S-Snake ruining all of York's plans. We'll talk about it a little bit later. But yeah, I said that in a short, like last week or earlier this week. And I thought about like it would make sense that she would be in love with Luffy, and that just ruins all the plans and also convinces her to depetrify everybody. So that happened, but we'll get to it a little later. But yeah, your boy was right. Called it. Your boy called it. So, into the meat of the chapter, Luffy is talking to Garcia Saturn, telling him that he's going to be king of the pirates. Kizaru, Morgus, who is eavesdropping on the call, Vivi, and Wapple all overhear this. And this is the first time I think anybody from the Straw Hats is talking to one of the 5 elders. Really weird. And I believe too, the 4 elders back at Mary Joas are also listening in on the call, and they're trying to squeeze Luffy for information. But Nami and I think Robin as well just shut down the call because they don't want it to get out how many people are actually with them, right? So even though I think they know already, because we got that from 1089, Garcia Saturn kind of just knew all the intel of who was with them. So I'm not sure if this is going to be reworded later because this isn't TCB or the official. So maybe that will be reworked in a translation bit at a later date. Don't know. Kind of don't get it. But yeah, Garcia then says we have to protect 3 things. The first thing is the safety of York. So York is important because I guess since York is a Vegapunk, she knows how to use the power plant or the fusion reactor needed to produce the mother flame. Which is weird. So I guess maybe the official said something different, but I thought the power plant was an alternative to what's ever powering the mother flame at this moment. Maybe it's not. I'm not sure on that. Maybe we'll get clarification later. I don't know. I don't know. If you know in the comments, help me out because I'm not actually sure what's going on there. But yeah, protecting York and protecting Punk Records are of the utmost importance because Punk Records is the brain of Vegapunk, and York is an important piece because she is a Vegapunk. Moving on, York is crying, so poor York. I love York. I love York because she has so much characterization in this whole thing, which was a surprise because upon first seeing her, you didn't think she would be up to much, but it's interesting that she just became the villain of this arc. And she's trying to leverage her deal with the 5 elders to protect herself. And she's saying, like, if you try to harm me, they'll just erase this entire island, which is untrue because then they would lose way more. They would lose her plus Punk Records, which is Vegapunk. So yeah, Nami bumps her on the noggin, which is very funny. And then apparently, which we still have to get information about for the in-between between what was going on with the Marines and all the guys versus the result of 1089. We still need to know the in-between of what was going on Egghead, because in this entire chapter, we don't really know what transpired during the entirety of the day when we were all focusing on other events. So I'm guessing that's going to be rewinding rewound back to in 1091 or 1092 because, yeah, a lot of events get brought up in this chapter, but we'll address them as they come up. Apparently, Robin got hurt in that exchange, most likely with the Seraphim, and Chomper is treating her. And then we get this cool shot where everybody eating. Luffy and Bonney eating together again. And as you'll see too, my goodness, are they building Bonney up? They really are. I love it. I love the camaraderie that's developing between her and Luffy, because you don't really get a lot of characters who get that with Luffy specifically. The joy of eating food. You don't get that a lot. So everyone's basically recovering, and from the casualties, we have 4 are heavily injured and 2 dead from the Vegapunk satellites. Okay, so that means we have Edison, we have York, we have Lilith, and we have Atlas. The 2 dead, of course, are Pythagoras because he got stepped on and I guess he blew up or got blown up. And then Shaka is dead because York shot him in the head. So he's done, so he's gone. Apparently. I know a lot of people say, well, I don't see a body, so he's not dead. This is One Piece. Seeing as how it's being mentioned, the likelihood of it being real, it's high. I'll say that. I know it's a bit trepidatious determining who's dead and who's not. But yeah. And the person like detailing all of this is Lucy. Because Lucy, during this entire time, is just chilling out in the back, and Kaku's laid out. He's conscious, but he's heavily injured, assumingly from the fight that we have not seen with the Seraphim that we will most likely be filled on in later. Usopp is talking to these various Cypherpole agents that were captured over the weeks before the arc actually started. The Straw Hats and co gave them food, so they're chilling out in the basement. And whom also is trapped in the basement are our Seraphim, S-Bear, S-Snake, S-Hawk, and S-Shark. And the bubbles that they are trapped in are specialty bubbles called bubble balls, which contain Kairoseki, sea stone. So they are excellent weapons for trapping Delphi users. I like this, and I hope somebody, could be Frankie, could be Usopp, somebody needs to incorporate this into their kit. I'm kind of leaning more towards Frankie because Usopp's got a lot on his plate with the pop grades. Frankie could use another upgrade because he hasn't really gotten one since the initial upgrade of General Frankie. But that was like back in Fisherman Island when we had the whole ability showcase. So Frankie is due for another upgrade. And then apparently they all can talk, because S-Hawk says, how dare they lock us in here? I don't know, that catches me off guard every time. Because I know we've seen S-Snake has the ability to talk, but I don't know why, I just don't expect the others to talk. But they can. So, I mean, that's interesting. And then S-Snake goes on to say, you don't have to worry about us anyway. Since we didn't get any orders to erase you, we don't care about you. Which she's being a little tsundere, which is very funny. And this is where we find out that Luffy's masculine charms worked on S-Snake, because we see the Cypherpole agents are relieved that the Seraphim are basically harmless at this point. And Frankie chimes in and says, despite that, we're still grateful to you, S-Snake, and thank you for undoing our petrification. And then Vegapunk's like, weird, I don't remember programming her to do that. Vegapunk is like low-key, he's cool, he's low-key weirdly evil. Like he doesn't really consider the humanity of the things he's created. It gives off an evil vibe, but it's not evil, he's just like weirdly aloof. And I don't know how I feel about that. But yeah, we get a little flashback of Luffy confronting S-Snake and calling her Hancock. Those are my friends. You have to undo your power on them. Please, you're the only one capable of saving them. And little baby S-Snake gets all flushed. Oh, I love it. I love I was right about this. I knew this was going to happen. It was too obvious. It was in our faces the entire time. I'm so happy I called it. And then she goes on to say, okay, I'll do it. So stop gazing at me directly. Oh, she's great. I love S-Snake. She's so cute. And then Jinbei says, ha ha ha, she's a perfect copy of Hancock. And then Vegapunk starts making notes on this observation as saying, very interesting, this interest in Luffy been transferred from Hancock during the cloning production. So I wonder, okay, so here's a question I have. If emotional attachments can be transferred from the original to the Seraphim, does that mean that, like, say, if S-Bat or S-Gecko, whatever the clone of Moria is going to be called, right? If he saw, let's say, Yamato or any other ogre-like being that favors Kaido, would he go into a blind fit of rage because of the trauma that Kaido caused to Moria, assuming that the trauma is carried over, which I'm guessing that it is, seeing as how lovey-dovey feelings can be carried over from one person to another. Trauma has to as well. So, like, also, if S Flamingo saw possibly a clone of Law or Law himself, would he be put into a blind rage because those feelings of betrayal or ownership have been transferred from Dothie to S Flamingo? Something to think about. What does well, yeah, he's a important part of this too. Does he have any feelings about anybody in Mihawk's past? Does S-Bear have any feelings towards Bonney? You know, it's a weird psychological breakdown of this character versus their original. Because now, what results would these result in? If there are any other clones, like I've made videos about saying there could be a clone of Law or Buggy, seeing as how they were warlords for a bit of a while, certainly not as long as the rest of these other characters, but longer than, say, Teach or Weevil. They probably too have clones of them, like, waiting around, seeing as how Law is super valuable. Buggy, not really valuable in his strength, but maybe his charisma is a valuable asset, so maybe they see the value in his charisma and clone him for that, to be sort of like a pseudo ringleader for Seraphim agents going forward. Don't know, but interesting topics to think about. But yeah, moving forward, Luffy thanks Hancock or S-Snake again for undoing the petrification on his friends. S-Snake is blushing again on this tiny TV. And might I just say, the art has jumped up tenfold, because even this little doodle of S-Snake in the Den Den Mushi TV, it's very, very well done. You can tell that's her. And then we cut back to York talking smack. I love York. York is a good female villain. My goodness. Because she's like, ha ha ha, your efforts are useless as I froze everything with a password. And unfortunately for you, I didn't share it with your brains, and I don't intend to tell you no matter what. So she's a real piece of work. I like her a lot. I'm digging York a lot. I'm digging her a lot. She's a cool female villain. And then Vegapunk is talking to Nami because she is the navigator of the Straw Hat crew. Also, Lilith is very pissed off by her sister or herself keeping secrets from herself. This whole relationship is so weird to me because, like, did York kill herself when she shot Shaka in the head? Because she is Vegapunk. And now is Lilith mad at herself from keeping the passwords from herself, because now they are updated by the same brain, but they can keep their own independent thoughts. So they also have their own individual brains. So, like, are they devil fruit users? I always wondered about that. Like, technically, are they? Because is the lineage factor of Vegapunk being a brain fruit user copied over to them and their whole creation? You know, it's weird. It's a weird thing to think about. And even like with the robot like Vegapunks, like Shaka, well, not Shaka. Shaka's got like a cyborg situation, I think, because he bled when York shot him. But like Edison and Pythagoras, who were very much robots, are they like robots with human brains? So they're technically cyborgs still? I don't know. It's a very, very confusing predicament. And I kind of want the biology of all these guys to be broken down. I don't know if we'll get that. Maybe it'll come up in like SBS 107. But yeah, I need some explanations because this is weird. York says she's starting to get hungry, and I find it very fascinating that in 1089 everybody was eating but her. I find that very funny, but very sad. for York. Yeah, she's my favorite. She's my favorite Vegapunk. She is. Because this characterization is fantastic. And I still stand by the reason why she's doing all this in the first place is because she is as brilliant as Vegapunk himself. The Gorosei, the five elders, even acknowledge this themselves. So she probably feels a certain type of way that she wasn't really consulted on any scientific endeavors. She was just used as a stomach and a rectum the whole time. So she might feel underappreciated, which caused feelings of resentment towards Vegapunk himself and the other satellites, which is why she's doing the things she's doing. And I guess it's weirdly progressive to be a villain in this situation, because as a celestial dragon, she ideally would have had unlimited food and unlimited resources to do her research or whatever, and she could just conduct things in peace. But due to the actions of the Revolutionary Army, if everything popped off for her in her favor, she would be inducted as a celestial dragon and at a time where they were low on food. So that's very funny. That's a very funny thought still. But yeah, Vegapunk, the main Vegapunk, is consulting Nami because she is the navigator, consulting her about the log post. And it said the log post didn't point to a destination yet, but I think we can follow any of the destinations it recorded in Wano, because, you know, I think it's a 24-hour period before the log poses reset and lock on to the next magnetic field. So maybe it got kind of wacky because they spent time on Wano, but then they went to Onigashima, which I guess could be another landmass entirely. Maybe that's why. Not sure about that, but okay, I'll buy it. Anyway, one of them is an island to the northeast, and Vegapunk clarifies this as Elbaf, baby. Yes, Elbaf. And Usopp and Luffy are wigging out. Also, Robin's wigging out, as she should. Elbaf should be a Usopp and Robin arc. Robin with Jaguar D. Saw being there. Jaguar D. Saw is a giant, so she should have many, many things to talk to him about, plus the Library of Ohara. That is in Elbaf now. So there is no reason for this not to be a Robin arc. And Usopp, that was a standing thing of his character since Little Guard, when we met Brocky and Dory. We saw Brocky and Dory recently where Brocky and Dory and Shanks mollywopped all the kid crew and sunk them to the bottom of the ocean. So they are relevant now. We're going to meet them again. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. And then we get a very funny shot of Usopp and Luffy singing about Elbaf, as they should. Do you know how long we've been waiting to go to Elbaf? I hope it's a long arc. Elbaf can be a long arc, because Elbaf has been a thing for like 20 years. Wano, I have my discrepancies with Wano, but Elbaf has to be cool. Elbaf, giants in general, Vikings were one of the inspirations for One Piece. It has to be good. It has to be good. It has to be good. I hope it's good. I hope it's good, especially with Oda's new eyes, of which we are seeing throughout this entirety of this chapter. It has to be good. Please, Oda, make Elbaf good. But yeah, Stussy notices Luffy staring at her, and she says, "Stop staring at me all the time." Oh, he's mad. Oh, Luffy's mad for the betrayal. Oh, he's pissed. Very funny. And then Vegapunk goes on to say, "Luckily for us, your ship is on the Lipophase stratum, but since the island is surrounded by a fleet completely, it's impossible for us to escape from the coast." We get a little diagram of Egghead, and Vegapunk says we have to head northeast from the other side of the island. Fortunately, the Vegaforce 1 is stationed next to your ship, which was the big robot we saw at the start of the arc, of which Lilith was piloting, which is really cool. Vegapunk goes on to tell us the limitations of the Vegaforce 1, saying, "I wish I could carry us over the enemy ships, but it can only fly in the aerial field of Egghead." Which is really interesting that the technology is limited, but it makes sense seeing as how he never got the big robot that I guess was in, I forgot where that big robot was in Egghead that the Ancient Kingdom built. Since he didn't get a power source to get that going, it makes sense that the robot has very limited maneuverability because I guess its power source is solely dependent on whatever is around Egghead Island. It makes sense. We still don't know what's powering it exactly, but I kind of get it. It makes sense. And he goes on to say, we'll fall as soon as we're out the island's range. Frankie goes on to say, and thank God Frankie is talking to Vegapunk. Thank you. You're a Frankie, boys. You're a Frankie. Yes, no problem, as our Sunny Go can continue after him with a coup de burst before he leaves the island's range. Talking about the Vega Force 1. No one will ever be able to catch up to us after we fly 1 kilometer away. And Frankie's so proud of this. He's bragging. And then Vegapunk's like, you there, huh? What? Your ship can fly 1 full kilometer? Very well. Let's use this plan. I like this a lot. Frankie tells him that the ship uses cola. And Vegapunk's like, cola? I love this. I love that Frankie is a pioneer of an energy source that the smartest man in the world has never even conceived of using. This is immaculate. This is superb. I have wanted this exchange for weeks. Thank you, Oda. This is fantastic. Fantastic. Good stuff. Good stuff all around. Bravo. Bravo. Alice goes on to say, Alice is a good one. I like Alice a lot. That's good, but we first have to disable the Frontier Dome before all of that. And then York goes on to gloat again. York is the best. You'll never get the password from me, ever. And then Vegapunk, Stella, and Vegapunk Atlas are saying, we'll hack it then. Don't underestimate the great Vegapunk. I love how Vegapunk is working with himself to spite himself. This is such an interesting exchange. It's so weird. You're keeping secrets from yourself, and you're going to defeat yourself by hacking yourself, and you say, don't underestimate the great me, who is you. This whole thing is so funny. It's so funny. And York is huge. York is like a big human. She's not a giant, but she's a big human. Atlas is big too. I think Atlas is smaller than York, or they're like relatively the same size. It's strange, but yeah, this whole mental gymnastics of betraying yourself to spite yourself, to get back at yourself, to free yourself, from the deals you made from yourself is so weird. But okay, moving on. Vegapunk Stella entrusts Vegapunk Lilith with piloting the Vega Force 1, and everyone is getting a move on. And then Lilith tells us something very interesting. You know, honestly, I never left this island before. And then Luffy says, I definitely will miss the food here. Bonney then says, agreed, we won't enjoy eating it tomorrow, so let's take some more pizza with us. Brothers, they're on the same page. The amount of characterization Bonney has gotten in this short amount of time is superb. She's joining the crew. I'm sorry. We'll see. I'm more confident with her than I was with Yamato. We'll have to see. We still have to see, because there's still a little piece of information that we're going to get to, I think, in the next panel. But then Luffy goes on to say, we have cheese in the ship, so don't worry, Sanji will cook it for us. Bonney then goes on to say, and what a great man he is indeed. Skill at cooking and strong at fighting. And Luffy's like, oi, what's gotten to you all of a sudden? That's a weird mood you're in. And then she says, I have to admit, I felt more relieved when I gave up on killing Vegapunk. And Luffy says, good, that means you won't annoy us with your crying like last night. And then she comes back and says, I wasn't crying. I would tell you something. We're going to find out what she saw in that Kuma memory bubble. And I think this has really changed her resolve completely. When we see what's in the memory bubble, we're going to get a dream. We're going to get possibly more about her skills when she was a young girl, which will contribute to her joining the crew as a whole. She's going to get rounded out as a character completely once we find out what was in the memory bubble, either from her past or the resolve she got after looking into Kuma's past. I think that is of great importance. Oh, I'm so excited. And then her getting familiar with Sanji, because she's a glutton and Sanji's the cook. And because she's a woman, Sanji will cook for her at all times, creating a new and interesting dynamic of Sanji not being annoyed by a glutton on the ship. This is peak. This is peak One Piece. If you hate Bonney, I'm sorry, this is peak. Bonney is one of my favorites in this arc. She's beautiful. She's great. She's multifaceted. We're going to get more about her. She's great. She doesn't step on the toes of Robin or Nami. She's her own dependent character. She's immaculate. The only thing we have to see now is that where is Carrot? I'm still interested in that. I still hold to the belief that she could be a stowaway on the ship. Also, we have to find out where Caribou went, because that's another thing. Like, where did he go? You know, because I think he got trapped on the island during all this going on here. So he's another factor that we have to start thinking about too. Then we switch back to the Marines. The Marines say, Rob Lucci has called us and we now know what's happening inside. Report this to all the forces. We see Garcia talking to Borsellino, and we get a little characterization for Kizaru here, because he says Straw Hat was talking arrogantly to deceive us that he's controlling the situation. But it looks like we still have him cornered like a rat. Very interesting, Borsellino. I always wonder too, who are these guys in armor? Do they have any like position of importance? Like, are they the Royal Guard or something? Or is that other faction? You know, that's weird. But yeah. Borsellino looks great in this entire chapter, by the way. Garcia goes on to say, the Frontier Dome is a defense system operating with lasers, correct? Can't you manipulate it since you're a man made out of light? This is a very, very, very intelligent question. Oh, Oda is in his bag. This is a good question. Because why wouldn't you ask that of the Logia man made of light? You would ask that because most of what Vegapunk does is because of the adaptation of Kizaru's abilities. It's the writing. It's good. It's good because you want these things to be asked. You want these things to pop off. And then Kizaru says, that seems possible, but Vegapunk's guard stationed under that dome is a friend of mine. He's talking about Cinnamaro, of course. And then Garcia says, then you'll just have to ignore him then. It's so weird that he's giving Borsellino this much leeway. Like, I know Sakazuki Akainu, I know he's the fleet admiral, but just from the way he's been perceived and how his relationship with the Gorosei, the Five Elders, the way that's been perceived, it doesn't seem like he's that chummy with them like Kizaru is here. Because Kizaru was entrusted to be alone with one of them on this very highly dangerous mission against a Yonko and his crew. I don't know, dog. Borsellino's weird. Kizaru is weird. And I've always said he and Kuzan are the most interesting. Sakazuki, you aren't really interested in him. You're interested into what drove him to this point. Because he really doesn't let on that he's that deep. But he could be. He could be. Who's to say? I don't know. He could be revealed to be that deep later. But just from what we've been seeing recently, he just doesn't seem as complex or motivated or knowledgeable by other factors like Borsellino is. Mind you, too, who introduced us to what Sword actually was? That was Kuzan, you know? And then the intricacies of powers now that Logias have are being touched upon in the presence of Kizaru. Not Kuzan, not Sakazuki. I don't know, bruh. I don't know. But yeah, Kizaru goes on to say, I can't ignore a man determined to fight for his duty. I will not betray my ideals. So he's saying, if Tomorrow's ready to throw hands, I'm going to throw hands. Which, all right. Garcia says, if we also started our attack like this, then no doubt Tomorrow will order the mechanized sea beasts and there are 50 Mark III pacifistas. There are 50 of them under his command to sink our ships. I'm sorry, it's actually Kizaru saying this. And then Kizaru goes on to say, our losses will then be countless. It's also interesting too. Forgive me if this has happened before. It's weird that Kizaru, someone who's ultimately uninterested in everything, can actually break down the losses of confronting the enemy carelessly. He's acting like an admiral assessing the situation and listing out the pros and cons to his superior. This is so cool. We never see this. I feel like we never see this. It can't be overstated how important this is because we never see admirals act in this official way. It's so interesting to see somebody doing their job, you know, because the last time a man did his job, I guess, was Aki Inu, because Kuzan never did his job. Moving on. Saturn goes on to say, this situation is getting more complicated. What about the power plant? Where is that located? And Kizaru pulls out some blueprints and says, Rob Lucy's a very crafty, smart fellow. He sent to us the info we need. Okay, so they got intel on where the power plant is on the island. So if I'm understanding this correctly, the power plant is an alternative power source that they need York to operate because York is in the mindset of actually going along with the five elders because they promised her that she could become a celestial dragon. Though how well that plan will work out is up in the air. Most likely it won't. So we see all the Navy ships getting ready for combat, and we get some lines from our new Vice Admiral guys. The big dude with the bushy beard says, tell the 6 powers users to get ready as soon as we begin the attack. Roger. Free all the Cypherpole agents from captivity. Roger. That's what the old lady says. I like her a lot. I wonder what her deal is. And then our fellow with the long neck, who I believe is either a member of the Snake Neck tribe or a Worm Zoan. Here's a little detail that's weird. He's got Marine tattooed on his neck, which makes me further believe that he could be a Snake Neck. Because if I recall correctly, didn't Amande have like a choker around her neck? I think she did. Yeah, no, Amande had tattoo hearts on her throat and a choker above that. So I think like the long leg tribe, long neck members have tattoos on their neck for like a beauty standard thing. Because male long leg tribe members like Bluegilly, he had a tattoo on his leg. Then you have Charlotte Smoothie, she had a tattoo on her leg. So yeah, that's just a cultural thing. I don't think long arm members do that. They're usually like they usually have like long sleeves or something. Their arms are usually covered, but they don't really tattoo their arms. At least I don't recall them doing that. They do like weird things to hide their arms because Apu wears like the long Chinese robe thing, and then Ideo actually scrunches his arms up to look like big shoulders. Ideo is the guy that hangs out with Bluegilly, and they're both a part of the Dio Pirates. I think they're just called the Idea Pirates, and they're a part of the Grand Fleet. So yeah, he scrunches his arms up so he can deliver a powerful like explosion punch. So yeah, they kind of just hide their arms, but Snake Neck and Long Leg have tattoos on their legs and necks respectively. So that's cool. That's cool. That's a cool thing. Moving forward though, what we see next is our weird looking, I guess, half fishman dude with the top hat target the mechanized sea beast weapons, and then we hear another Roger. Luffy's having fun on the terrain of Egghead, as the part that they're on has the same consistency as the Sky Islands. And then we have Big Daddy Kizaru coming in hot with Yata no Kagami, and he zips past everybody. Zips right past the mechanized sea bear, all through the laboratory, and Sentomaru senses him and sends out a message to all pacifistas. Wipe out our enemies. Prepare yourself, Sentomaru. And Sentomaru says, my defense is the strongest in the world. Sentomaru blocks a light kick from Kizaru. Is this a light speed reaction? Power scaling bros. Is this a light speed reaction? Good lord. Oh, we're back in Shabuddy Archipelago, baby! Especially with all the bubble technology. This is very much giving Shabuddy Archipelago vibes. We got the bubbles. We got Sentomaru. We got Kizaru, we got Haki. Oh, it's cool. It's cool. It's cool. Oh, Kizaru's coming in hot. Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, yeah. Back up top, someone says, what? There's light from below. Oi, someone very powerful is coming. So, is Luffy sensing Kizaru? Because he wouldn't be sensing Blackbeard, because he's looking below. So, I'm guessing Kizaru is shooting up through the clouds after dealing with Sentomaru. That could be the case. I think that's actually the case. Which is going to be lit. Kizaru, oh boy, to see Kizaru at his fullest. Because we haven't seen him be serious. to see him fight Gear 5th. Oh my goodness. Oh my days. Oh, it's gonna be lit. It's gonna be lit. But we have to wait for like 2 weeks or something. So yeah, that kind of sucks. But as always, there'll be more content from me. Polypede Works. So stay tuned. Talk to you guys next time. This is an amazing chapter. Amazing. Amazing. Okay. Hope you enjoyed. Talk to you later.